I feel like this is one of those fights, though, where, man, if you win this, I think the storyline is right there for Khamzat.
It gives the impression I would like to fight you.
I mean, that'd be a big fight, you know. I think that, like, I think I'm probably the only one that could beat Chimaev. I honestly think Fluffy's a better wrestler than Chimaev. Like, I think pace-wise, style-wise, I think over 5 rounds, Fluffy's probably a better, but then stand-up, I think Chimaev might take him to stand-up decision. So, I don't know, man. It's kind of weird what the UFC did with Chimaev. You brought a guy in that fights once a year who's like Madonna, who probably gets, like, you know, I mean, how much money does that dictator give him on the table? Like, the guy doesn't need to fight, dude. He's best friends with a warlord, you know? Like, he doesn't need to fight. Dude gets gifted G-Wagons. So you have somebody who, like, he's just going to sit on that belt and wait until they force him to fight. And then, like, he wanted to fight Nasruddin or something, whatever the guy's name is. He's like, oh, I don't want to fight you, my brother. Like, what are you talking about? That's not how this sport works, dude. Don't be go fight that guy.
Let's say you do get a shot at Khamzat again. Are you expecting any surprises there? Because he has the default setting, and it's not to fight you, it's to smother you and negate anything you bring to the fight.
Yeah, of course. I mean, fighting Khamzat again is, of course, what I'm after. Expecting any surprises? No. There's not going to be any surprises. I mean, that is the way he's going to fight, and if he tries anything different, it will be a terrible night. And we all know that. But he did what he had to win that belt. We can't hate on him for that. No, he did what he needed to do. It's the rules of the game, and he did it. So saying that, you know, it's not fair, it is fair. He did what he had to do. Not how I would win my belt or would like to, but that's what he did. And now it's my responsibility to go and fix that, to stop him from doing that again and get him to fight my fight.
Sean Strickland just declared war on the entire middleweight division. And what he's doing to Khamzat Chimaev's head right now is absolutely brutal. This isn't your typical trash talk between fighters. This is calculated psychological warfare designed to implant seeds of doubt deep into Chimaev's mind before they ever step foot in that octagon. Strickland knows exactly what he's doing here. He's studied the game, he's mastered the mental side of fighting, and he's weaponizing every single word that comes out of his mouth. While everyone's focused on who deserves the next title shot, Strickland is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He's not just campaigning for a fight. He's systematically breaking down his opponent's confidence, trying to drag Chimaev into his chaotic, unpredictable world where anything can happen.
Real in your fight.
Now, let's talk about Khamzat. Listen, he's 15-0. The man's a force of nature, okay? He's unbelievable. The wrestling really is next level. And we know the power in the hands is ridiculous as well. And he has been flirting about going up to the light heavyweight division. That's crazy talk, okay? That isn't going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I don't have any inside scoops on that, but come on. There's no way you can't win the belt in August and then about a year later decide that you're going to move up to the light heavyweight division. And of course he called out Alex Pereira, and I'll say it, stylistic.
You see the 185, right?
But here's where this gets absolutely wild. Dricus du Plessis is sitting back watching all of this unfold, and he's loving every second of it. The champion knows that this psychological warfare between Strickland and Chimaev is doing his job for him. Think about it. While these two are going at each other's throats in the media, DDP is in the gym, staying focused, preparing for whoever emerges from this mental battlefield. And that's the genius of championship positioning. Du Plessis has seen what that belt can do to a man's psyche. He's witnessed firsthand how the pressure of being champion can either elevate you or completely crush you. This isn't just about throwing punches and grappling for position. This is about who can handle the mental weight of knowing that one mistake, one moment of doubt, one crack in your psychological armor can cost you everything you've worked for.
They fight.
He's had to say about Chimaev, it does make me, I don't know, scratch my head a little bit. He said, if anyone can beat the Chechen star, it's me. That's a big fight. I'm probably the only one that can beat Chimaev. So he said, here's the thing, guys, right? I'm the only one that can beat Chimaev. Honestly, I think Fluffy is a better wrestler than Chimaev. And that's crazy. That's even worse. That's a worse take than the impression of Sean Strickland that I just did. To say that Fluffy is a better wrestler than Khamzat Chimaev is wild. Hernandez, better known as Fluffy, is a very, very good wrestler. He is very effective, but he hasn't got nowhere near the credentials.
Middleweight chaos.
Now let me tell you something about this middleweight division that nobody else is talking about. The pressure at 185 pounds is unlike anything else in the UFC right now. These aren't just athletes competing for rankings. These are killers who understand that in this weight class, one perfectly timed strike can end your career, your legacy, and your financial future in the blink of an eye. Khamzat Chimaev's move to middleweight was supposed to be his path to championship gold, but what he's discovering is that the mental game at this level is completely different. The weight cut alone is a battle that starts months before fight night. Your body is already under incredible stress, and then you add the psychological pressure that guys like Strickland are applying. That's a recipe for disaster, and Strickland knows this. He's been through the wars, he's felt that championship pressure, and he understands exactly which buttons to push.
Alive.
Event, it is Sean Strickland versus Alexander Hernandez. So first of all, Sean Strickland's got to get through Fluffy, right? And that's a really tough matchup. Fluffy is going to push the pace. Sean Strickland pushes the pace. Sean's going to use the jab and try and use the distance. Alexander Hernandez is going to get on the inside. He's going to throw combinations. He's going to shoot. He's going to go for takedowns. He's going to let him get back up because that's what he does. And Sean Strickland's really good at getting back to his feet anyway. And it'll be rinse and repeat. And who can impose their will and who will be the better man on the night, I don't know. It's a great fight, but I'm commentating, so I can't make a prediction.
Imposing his will. Pushing the pace.
Here's the kicker, though. Duplessis isn't just sitting back passively waiting for his next challenger. He's actively capitalizing on this chaos, knowing that every day these guys spend focused on each other is another day he gets to improve his own game. The champion understands something that a lot of fighters miss. In the middleweight division, it's not enough to just be physically ready. You have to be mentally bulletproof. Every exchange is scrutinized. Every moment of hesitation gets exposed. Every sign of weakness gets exploited. And right now, while Strickland is launching these psychological attacks on Chimaev, DDP is studying both of them, learning their tells, understanding their mental breaking points, and preparing strategies to exploit whatever damage this war of words creates.
Validation for his
with Chimaev. This is Strickland. You brought over a guy that fights once a year. The guy doesn't need to fight. He's best friends with a warlord. But I don't know what that's got to do with anything anyway, right? There's no one in the octagon helping him when he's taking out these people one after the other, and that is why the man is undefeated. And against Dricus du Plessis, it certainly seems that the cardio issues have been solved, okay? He went 5 rounds, and Dricus du Plessis came out recently. He does expect to be the champion again, by the way, by the end of 2026.
I'll have my belt back before the end of this year.
He expects to get another crack at Khamzat Chimaev, and he expects to beat him, right? He says that first fight with Khamzat Chimaev was terrible. And it was terrible from Dricus's perspective, okay? It was certainly a bad night at the office. He was taken down and he was controlled for the majority.
that screams privilege.
But wait, it gets even crazier. What Strickland is doing goes beyond just trying to get into Chimaev's head. He's making a public declaration that he's the stylistic nightmare that Khamzat has been trying to avoid. Think about what that means. Strickland is essentially telling the entire MMA world that he's figured out the puzzle that is Khamzat Chimaev. He's claiming he's identified the weaknesses, the pressure points, the exact moments where Chimaev becomes vulnerable. And you know what's wild about this? Strickland has the resume to back up these claims. This isn't some unranked fighter talking trash on social media. This is a former champion who's been in there with the best in the world, who understands what it takes to break elite-level fighters mentally before the physical fight even begins.
Now, I'm not talking shit about Dricus du Plessis. I'm a huge fan of the guy. I love the way he fights. I love the way he carries himself as a person. I am a massive fan of Dricus. He's one of the boys. He's great. He's great for the sport. I got nothing bad to say. But on that night, the only thing that was terrible was Dricus' ability to get back to the feet and to stop a takedown, right? Khamzat Chimaev was trying to choke him out. He was trying to finish him with elbows. He was trying to beat him down. But Dricus is tough, and he made it to the final bell. And that's why there was all the control time and no finish, okay? It's not Khamzat's fault. However,
Middleweight chaos isn't...
And get this, the timing of all this psychological warfare couldn't be more perfect for creating absolute chaos in the middleweight rankings. While Du Plessis is dealing with the pressures of being champion, trying to figure out who deserves the next shot at his belt, Strickland is out here essentially campaigning through mental warfare. He's not just asking for a fight. He's demanding it by proving he can get inside his opponent's head before they even sign the contract. This is next-level fight promotion, but it's also incredibly dangerous territory. Because once you start playing these mind games, once you make these bold declarations about being able to walk through someone, you better be prepared to back it up when that cage door closes.
That's the real insight.
he's in Newport Beach, California right now. He's there with a bunch of Chechens. He's doing a training camp down in Newport Beach at the Santos Studios. That's why I'll be talking to him for the Jackson podcast. So keep an eye out for that one because I'm looking forward to it. But the fact that he's down there, the fact that he's with a bunch of Chechens, the fact that he's training means he's getting ready for something. And of course he is. And to Strickland's point, he hasn't fought in 7 months, so it's time to get back in there and defend the belt and prove that you are the best in the world. Now, the timing couldn't be better for Strickland or Hernandez. Hernandez on an 8-fight win streak, okay? If he beats Sean Strickland, the former champion, maybe he's the next guy in line. And a lot of people look at Fluffy as the kind of guy to have the antidote wrestling.
Middleweight, it's an absolute bloodbath right now. Pure.
Here's what's really happening behind all this trash talk and psychological warfare. The middleweight division has become a meat grinder where one misstep doesn't just cost you a fight, it can completely derail your entire career trajectory. These fighters understand that they're not just competing for rankings or even championship belts. They're fighting for their legacy, their financial security, and their place in MMA history. When Strickland claims he beats Chimaev, he's not just making a prediction. He's making a calculated business decision designed to force the UFC's hand in making that fight. And the psychological pressure he's applying, that's just the cherry on top. He knows that if he can get Chimaev doubting himself, questioning his game plan, second-guessing his preparation, then half the battle is already won before they ever step into that octagon.
Challenge.
Those consequences collide.
And that means he's a problem for whoever it is that he's going to fight. It should be Nasruddin Imavov. It could be the winner of Fluffy versus Sean. Strickland says that he's the only person to beat him, that Fluffy's a tougher test than Khamzat Chimaev.
I mean, DDP is tougher than Khamzat.
Now here's the brutal reality that nobody wants to acknowledge. Khamzat Chimaev's performance in his last middleweight appearance exposed some cracks in his armor that guys like Strickland have definitely noticed. The weight cut looked brutal. The finish wasn't as dominant as we expected. And most importantly, there were moments where you could see the pressure getting to him. Strickland watched that fight and he saw opportunity. He saw a fighter who might be vulnerable to the exact type of relentless, chaotic pressure that he specializes in applying. This isn't just trash talk for the sake of getting attention. This is a predator identifying weakness in his prey and systematically exploiting it through psychological warfare.
About that.
And he probably believes that because as fighters, we have to have that self-belief. We have to believe that we can beat all of these people. And Sean Strickland's no chump. He's no walk in the park. And certainly when he was sparring someone recently, you might have seen that footage, he throws a head kick, knocks out one of his sparring partners out cold. And we know he loves to beat up on a streamer. But will he beat up on Fluffy Hernandez next weekend in Houston? Let me know in the comment section who you think wins that belt. And let me know what you think about Khamzat Chimaev coming back. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Imavov? I think it is. That's the fight that needs to happen. Maybe Fluffy or Sean, maybe they jump and leapfrog. Maybe they get into pole position. I don't know. What do you think? Thanks for watching. Subscribe, ring the bell. Saturday afternoon here. I'm going to do a mix. I'm going to upload it to my SoundCloud. I did it yesterday.
This middleweight IQ gamble against the stock.
But here's where Du Plessis comes in as the wild card that everyone's underestimating. The champion has been through this exact scenario before. He's felt the pressure of having everyone gunning for him. He's experienced what it's like when every fighter in the division is trying to use him as a stepping stone to bigger things. And instead of cracking under that pressure, he's thriving. DDP understands that while Strickland and Chimaev are burning mental energy on this public war of words, he gets to stay focused on what actually matters: training, improving, staying sharp. The champion knows that all this psychological warfare creates opportunity for the fighter who can stay above the chaos and capitalize on whatever damage gets done in the process.
Fail.
Only person that can beat him.
I think I'm probably the only one that could beat Chimaev.
And of course, Sean Strickland's going to say that because he was the middleweight champion of the world and he lost it to Dricus du Plessis, and then he came back and he beat Paulo Costa, but then he looked like crap against Dricus du Plessis the second time in Sydney, Australia.
You think Strickland's just talking smack?
Listen, what we're witnessing right now is psychological warfare at its absolute finest. Strickland isn't just trying to get a fight with Chimaev. He's trying to fundamentally alter how Khamzat approaches training, preparation, and mental readiness for their potential matchup. Every interview where Strickland claims he walks through Chimaev is another seed of doubt planted. Every social media post is another psychological pressure point applied. And the genius of it is that Chimaev is in a no-win situation. If he responds, he's playing Strickland's game and giving him exactly what he wants. If he stays quiet, it looks like he's intimidated or avoiding the confrontation. Meanwhile, du Plessis gets to watch this entire psychological battle unfold while staying focused on his own championship preparation.
That would be a bit of a problematic matchup for Alex Pereira. And of course, you can't underestimate Alex Pereira, but I'm just saying, the wrestling side of things, Khamzat Chimaev will be a problem for anybody. It's just that.
Strickland thing.
So here's the bottom line, and this is what makes this whole situation absolutely fascinating from a fight fan perspective. We're not just watching athletes compete for rankings or even championship opportunities. We're watching a master class in psychological warfare where every word, every claim, every piece of trash talk is a calculated weapon designed to gain mental advantage before the physical fight ever begins. Strickland has turned himself into Chimaev's nightmare not just stylistically, but mentally. He's created a scenario where Khamzat has to prove he can handle this type of pressure, while du Plessis gets to benefit from whatever psychological damage gets inflicted in the process. The middleweight division isn't just chaos right now. It's a psychological battlefield where the winner won't just be determined by who has better technique or conditioning, but by who can handle the mental warfare that comes with competing at the highest levels of mixed martial arts. And honestly, I think we're about to find out who's really built for championship pressure and who crumbles when the mind games reach their breaking point. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think Strickland's psychological warfare is actually effective, or is Chimaev mentally tough enough to handle this type of pressure? If this breakdown of the middleweight mental game helped you understand what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell because this psychological war is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.
Survival.
Round fight. Now, anyone that's looking at Khamzat and talking shit about him in that performance, the man was trying to finish the fight. The man was trying to submit him. About 13 minutes of that 24 minutes of control time was Dricus in a
Crucifix. Forget the control time.
But hold up, because there's another layer to this psychological chess match that nobody's talking about, and it's absolutely mind-blowing when you really break it down. Robert Whittaker is sitting in the shadows of all this drama, and he's probably laughing at how perfectly this is setting up for his return to title contention. Think about what Bobby Knuckles brings to this equation. He's the former champion who never really got his proper revenge tour against du Plessis. He's been quietly dismantling contenders while everyone's focused on this Strickland Chimaev soap opera. And here's the kicker. Paulo has already been through the mental warfare phase of championship fighting. He knows exactly how to handle the pressure that's currently breaking other fighters in this division.
About the champion, you get on their radar, you make it personal, you talk some shit, you rub them up the wrong way, you stick that knife in, you get personal, you say whatever you gotta say to get that guy, that champion, to want.
You hear that? That's the sound of the middle.
What's even more insane is how this psychological warfare is creating a domino effect throughout the entire middleweight landscape. Paulo Costa is watching this unfold and probably kicking himself for not being the one applying this type of mental pressure. Whittaker Vettori is seeing how effective Strickland's approach is and likely taking notes for his own comeback campaign. Meanwhile, rising contenders like Roman Dolidze and Jack Hermansson are realizing that in today's middleweight division, you can't just be a skilled fighter, you have to be a psychological assassin. The game has evolved beyond just training camps and fight preparation. These guys are now hiring sports psychologists, media consultants, and mental warfare specialists because they understand that the battle starts months before you ever step into that octagon. And let's talk about what this means for Khamzat's entire career trajectory, because this is where things get absolutely brutal. Chimaev built his reputation on being this unstoppable force who could dominate anyone at any weight class. But what Strickland is doing right now is systematically deconstructing that aura of invincibility. Every time Sean gets on a microphone and claims he walks through Khamzat, he's not just talking trash, he's rewriting the narrative around Chimaev's marketability. The UFC is a business, and fighters are investments. When you start creating doubt about a fighter's mental toughness, you're not just affecting their next fight, you're potentially impacting their earning potential for the rest of their career. This is why Strickland's psychological warfare is so dangerous and so effective. But here's where this gets even more twisted. Du Plessis isn't just benefiting from this chaos, he's actively contributing to it in subtle ways that most people aren't picking up on. Every time DDP does an interview and casually mentions how he's watching potential contenders sort themselves out, he's adding fuel to this psychological fire. The champion understands that the longer this mental warfare continues, the more damage gets done to both Strickland and Chimaev. It's like watching a master manipulator work his magic, while everyone thinks he's just sitting back passively. Du Plessis has turned the entire middleweight division into his personal psychological laboratory, and he's conducting experiments on his potential challengers without them even realizing it. Now let me blow your mind with something that's happening behind the scenes that the cameras don't show you. Training camps are being completely restructured because of this psychological warfare. Chimaev's team is now having to dedicate time and resources to media training, mental preparation, and developing responses to Strickland's psychological attacks. That's time and energy that should be spent on improving technique, conditioning, and game planning. Meanwhile, Strickland is in his element. This chaos, this mental warfare, this is where he thrives. He's not having to adjust his preparation at all because psychological warfare is his preparation. He's essentially tricked Chimaev into fighting his fight before they ever sign a contract. And get this, the ripple effects of this psychological warfare are being felt in gyms across the world. Young fighters are studying what Strickland is doing and trying to implement similar tactics in their own careers. Coaches are having to develop new training methodologies that account for social media warfare and psychological pressure campaigns. The entire sport is evolving in real time because of what we're witnessing in the middleweight division right now. This isn't just about 3 or 4 elite fighters competing for a championship. This is about the fundamental transformation of how mixed martial arts careers are built and maintained in the modern era. But wait, it gets even crazier when you consider what this means for the actual fights when they finally happen. All this psychological warfare creates expectations that these fighters now have to live up to. Strickland has essentially painted himself into a corner where he has to dominate Chimaev if they fight. Anything less than a decisive victory makes him look like all his trash talk was just hot air. Similarly, Chimaev now has to prove that he's mentally tough enough to handle this type of pressure. The stakes have been artificially inflated to the point where these fights become career-defining moments, regardless of what the rankings or title implications might be. Here's something that's absolutely fascinating from a business perspective. The UFC is watching all this psychological warfare unfold, and they're probably thrilled about the organic promotion that's being generated. They don't have to spend millions on marketing campaigns when fighters are creating their own compelling storylines through mental warfare. But there's also a dangerous precedent being set here. What happens when every fighter starts trying to emulate Strickland's approach? What happens when the sport becomes more about who can generate the most psychological drama rather than who's actually the best fighter? We might be witnessing the beginning of a fundamental shift in how MMA careers are built and maintained. And let's talk about the international implications of this psychological warfare, because that's another layer that adds complexity to this whole situation. Chimaev represents more than just himself. He's carrying the expectations of an entire region that sees him as their breakthrough star in American mixed martial arts. When Strickland attacks Khamzat's mental toughness, he's not just going after an individual fighter, he's challenging the credibility of an entire fighting culture. That adds pressure that goes way beyond typical pre-fight mind games. Chimaev isn't just fighting for rankings or championship opportunities. He's fighting to prove that he can handle the unique psychological pressures that come with being an international star in American combat sports. Meanwhile, Dudu is dealing with his own version of international pressure as the South African champion trying to establish his legacy in a division dominated by American, European, and Middle Eastern fighters. But here's what makes DDP so dangerous in this psychological landscape. He's already proven he can handle that pressure by winning the championship. While his potential challengers are still trying to prove they belong at that level, Du Plessis has already climbed that mountain. He knows what it feels like to have an entire country's expectations on his shoulders, and he's thrived under that pressure. That gives him a massive psychological advantage over fighters who are still trying to figure out how to handle elite-level mental warfare. Now here's where this whole situation becomes absolutely unpredictable. All this psychological warfare has created a scenario where the actual fights, when they happen, might not live up to the mental drama that's been building. Sometimes the most intense pre-fight psychological battles result in surprisingly technical, measured fights, because both fighters are so mentally prepared for chaos that they overcompensate in the opposite direction. Other times, all that built-up psychological tension explodes the moment the cage door closes, and we get absolute wars that exceed even the wildest expectations. The problem is, there's no way to predict which scenario we're going to get until these guys actually step into that octagon and all the talking stops. But here's what I find most fascinating about this entire psychological warfare campaign. Strickland has essentially forced the entire middleweight division to revolve around him without actually being the champion. Think about that for a second. Dudu has the belt, Chimaev has the hype, Whitaker has the legacy, but Strickland has captured everyone's attention through pure psychological manipulation. He's made himself the center of every middleweight conversation without having to win a championship or go on a dominant winning streak. That's next-level career management that other fighters are definitely taking notes on. And the timing of all this couldn't be more perfect for creating maximum chaos in the championship picture. The UFC is trying to figure out who deserves the next title shot, but instead of having clear-cut #1 contenders, they've got this psychological soap opera that's generating more interest than most actual championship fights. Strickland has essentially hijacked the entire division's narrative and turned it into his personal promotional campaign. Meanwhile, Du Plessis gets to sit back and watch his potential challengers exhaust themselves in mental warfare, while he stays focused on actual fight preparation. So here's what I think is going to happen, and this is where things get really interesting. All this psychological warfare is building towards something that's going to be absolutely explosive when it finally comes to a head. Whether it's Strickland versus Chimaev, or one of them challenging Du Plessis for the title, or some completely unexpected matchup that emerges from this chaos, we're looking at fights that are going to be defined as much by the mental preparation as the physical preparation. The winner won't just be the better fighter on paper. It'll be whoever can handle the psychological pressure that's been building for months through this public mental warfare campaign.